it's down here.
Yeah.
So
So technology, it's good and it's bad. When it works, it works. So the board, thank you for waiting. We had a closed session there for a couple items. We've come back into open session. Wanted to kind of back up for the board, if it's okay. Update has come to us from Dr. Cox about adding an item to the agenda about pre-K at Blue Ridge Elementary. If that's okay with the board, I'd like to back up and add that to our agenda under action items. Miss Terry is right now making copies to give to the board of some late breaking information on that. And we'll be bringing those in. So you'll see her come in and we'll be passing some papers here in a minute. So if it's okay, I'd kind of like to back up and can we have an approval to amend the amended agenda? If that makes sense.
I make a motion to approve the amended.
All right. All right. Thank you, Ms. Ward. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any other questions, comments? All those,
Put it under the child nutrition bid piggy bank. Put it at the
yeah, that's fine. Put it, make it number 10. That'll work. So all those in favor of that being added, raise your hand. Okay, motion carries. Thank you for allowing us to back up there. So we're just going to jump right in here. This is our June 30th meeting, so it is in substitution of the regular July board meeting on there. So we're going to start first with Dr. Cox and comments from the superintendent.
So, you know, most of the time we have a lot of people here for honoring, but since most of our teachers have now are on break and a lot of our 10-month employees aren't here, we are going to say, first of all, thank you to everyone who worked summer school. I really believe it was a true success. We even tested at the end of summer school. We won't have all of that information until, or do we have all of it in now? Is it all in now? Okay, so we can't say anything yet.
Correct.
But we are very pleased overall with what we have done, considering the year we have all experienced together. I'm going to pass this around to you all if you want to pass it on. But thank you to everyone who contributed to the success of the school year in this, with the closing out of our budget. We now get to focus on the next school year, which we've been doing both for a little while now. This Friday is Independence Day, and so the offices are closed. And I don't know why it says Friday, July 5th. The offices are closed, but we're going to be having quite a few things come up and added dates in August. We'll make sure that we add it to that running list of events because we have new teacher dates that are upcoming. We have lots of things that are going on, and so we are, really excited about. We're really excited about some of the future things that we have in Ashe County School. I don't know why. Am I on the wrong date? Okay. Good things upcoming. You see that there are lots of congratulations in order. For the first time that I remember, we actually have Megan Colbert is a finalist for the CTE Burroughs Welcome Fund Teacher of the Year. And if anyone knows Megan, you know, we've honored her in the last couple of board meetings. She is Ashe County High School's Teacher of the Year, but she's also our district's CTE Teacher of the Year, and truly tremendous. And when I spent some time with students over the last couple of weeks at school talking about what their vision for Ashe County Schools is and planning for the future for students, I wanted to hear from our students that have been with us since they were in kindergarten or pre-K, and many of them who had Mrs. Colvert said, we need teachers just like Mrs. Colvert, and they named her by name. And so I remember at the Heart of the Husky going up to Mrs. Colvert and letting her know that what I had heard, because I think people need to hear it directly, especially when the compliments come from the students that you serve. Wow, what a change maker and what a difference maker she is. So Anyway, so she is going to receive some honors. She will have some professional learning that's upcoming, and then later on, they'll have a dinner in their honor, and I'm excited for her to be able to participate in that. Last month, Ashe County Schools participated in the Appalachian State University Public School Partnership, and it was they showed all kinds of innovations from 18 different districts. I believe there were over 100 people there, and Ashe County Schools was voted on by all of the other school districts as the innovative partner of the year. And so I had asked, we had asked Mountain View Elementary to present on our behalf their innovation, because really it's about the work that gets done in the schools every day. Mountain View Elementary, if you haven't seen their booklet they sent home with parents and children, all children in Mountain View Elementary were charged with a community task, I guess you could say, to help spread tourism and to really help extend learning throughout the year. And so things like Ashe County Cheese, the Ashe County Museum of History, there were 5 different sites here in Ashe County where families could go visit. There were book selections that were matched, and they used AI to help them to craft this wonderful booklet that they sent home. Anyway, that was the talk of this event. They did a fantastic job in presenting. Casey and I happened to be there for the entire event, and there were some outstanding things showcased at this event, and our teachers came up on top. So they received a check for $1,500 for their school, and then a person from Scholastic Books. I was talking to her, she asked what's next with this project, and I said, when they come back to school, they are giving prizes to students who complete this who complete these challenges and read during the summer. And she said, well, what kind of prizes you're looking for? And I said, I think they're wanting to put books in the hands of every child. And she donated $2,000 worth of books. Wow. That Mountain View Elementary can actually select themselves. So we're really proud of that. It never hurts to ask for things. And of course, what does Scholastic do best? They put books in the hands of kids. So we're excited about that and what's to come. We had lots of successes with Gear Up in our middle school. Christy Aldridge and Jessica Yates, so counselors at the middle school and the early college, presented at the Group Counselor Network Showcase in Morganton, sharing strategies that boost student success. And of course, Gear Up was the sponsor of that event. And so we are, first of all of our counselors have participated in the National ASCA model on how to collect really good data to best support kids in the MTSS process and others. And so we're really proud of them for continuing their learning so that our kids can continue to grow. We had more teachers that were certified in letters. And so that our elementary teachers had gone through a pretty grueling process of getting certified. Not just the teachers, but our administrators. Mitchell Reedy participated in all of the teacher PD and did all of the modules as an administrator, which was a lot of extra work for him. But reaching that milestone, Casey was able to go out and celebrate them. And Courtney Binder, Amanda Black, Alicia Brose, McKenna Wilson, Hannah Barker, Jennifer Blevins, Angie Douglas, Alexis Henson, Kristen Pryder, Alicia Roden, Marley Eller, Marcia Shepard, and Sherry Shepard were all ones who were able to celebrate reaching that milestone. So we're really proud of them and the extra work that they put in so that they can improve on their practices on behalf of kids. So we're very excited. We celebrated last time Mountain View's excellence in the cafeteria. Westwood achieved 100% as well in the cafeteria. So it takes all of us to be able to serve children and make sure that they have everything they need to be successful. And so, one more cafeteria team who was able to achieve 100% on their sanitation rating. Anyway, lots of people in there, so many different announcements. We're accepting, for anyone out there with a child incoming to pre-K, we are accepting applications with spots at all open sites for children who turn 4 before August 31st. You might be eligible for free NC pre-K, which is fantastic. We also have a paid classroom too for those who are not eligible, but there may be subsidies available for those students. But here in a little bit, the added pre-K item, I think we'll maybe have more to celebrate there. We celebrated retirees across our district who have put in so much service to Ashe County schools. And again, we will be doing our convocation this year, a pinning ceremony to honor employment in Ashe County schools. Once again, I know Lakin worked hard on getting those numbers together for us so that we can ensure that everyone who's getting their pin at 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 plus years is honored. And of course, several of you on the board have that many years of service to Ashe County schools. And project graduation, we graduated students, which Earl, I can say that right out loud to our graduation rate. Okay, good. I'm just making sure, because sometimes you can say it behind the scenes and not blast it everywhere, but this is one that's pretty easy. First of all, project graduation was another huge success. Thanks to all of our volunteers that made that possible. And a special congratulations to Ashe County High School graduate Paige Roten, who received a $12,000 Norman Cheek scholarship. Donna Bayer, who is the daughter of the late Mr. Cheek, presented that annual scholarship. And it's given to a student pursuing their education at App State, but they also have to have volunteered a lot, including at project graduation. And anyone who knows Paige knows certainly fit that mold. She's been volunteering for just about everything for as long as I've been here anyway. So congratulations to her. But and this is going back to the state of the schools, when we have all of our data on our strategic plan and all of our data on what's next, we're going to be able to shout from the rooftops so what we've done. But I want to give you a couple of little bites of positive good things. One, we've wanted students to be in school. And we want to make sure that students are coming to school on a regular basis. And that's really important to all of us. But from a chronic absenteeism, we know that regardless whether you're sick or you're just not in school, it does make a difference. And we want all children to be successful. Our chronic absenteeism has been decreasing significantly. So in 2021-22 school year, some of our schools were at 10 plus absences of over 78% of our kids with that many absences. 18 plus absences was high as well. And that's too much for kids to be out of school that many days. And we know that there were contributing factors with COVID and sicknesses and things that were beyond our control. But it's also something that we needed to get kids back and see the value of being in school. This past year, across our district, we are almost back to pre-COVID levels of chronic absenteeism. Every single school has decreased the number of students that are significantly absent from school. And that was one of our goals. It's something we've been working on and will continue to work on. But we are significantly doing better across the board. So I'm proud of all of our counselors, our principals, our teachers, a lot of people making those phone calls on a daily basis, our social workers who make home visits, a tremendous amount of effort, and we're going to continue to work on that positive path. And it's been declining, which is a good thing, but this year we made even more of a decline, even this year during what was challenging overall in getting kids to school. So secondly, I think the biggest thing from a strategic plan and the difference that we're making across the board, and I cannot believe that Miss Tammy is here. Welcome. Probably the biggest thing that when I came to Ashe County Schools, when we looked at the data for our strategic planning, and I had Mr. Pennington to pull the data for me. The biggest thing, being a mom of boys, and knowing how important it is to graduate from high school, one of the biggest challenges we had was our boys, and not graduating, but a lot of them are dropping out. And so we made it a goal in our strategic plan. Before I came, 1 in 4 boys was not graduating from high school in Ashe County, which I spent, as some of you all did as well, teary nights just thinking, what are we going to do to re-engage our boys? So we put it on our strategic plan and said, not only do we want to decrease the number of dropouts, which has been decreasing, and hopefully it'll continue on that path. But this school year, we have moved from about 84% graduation rate a few years ago when we made that goal. This year, 92% graduation rate. And that's among some of the highest in the state as a district. So kudos to, and this is not just a high school thing. And this takes everybody. Kids sometimes say they're going to drop out in the 5th grade. And they keep that in the back of their minds until we have an opportunity to grab them and help them to make a difference. So this is all in throughout the entire district. It's wonderful community partnerships. It's our CTE classes that we have expanded to 18 different pathways so that we can capture as many kids as we can. It's our partnerships with the community college to re-engage our students. We have significantly increased the number of students with internships. And those are all throughout our high school experience, from your top kids down to the kids who need something different to look at to remain engaged in school. Kudos to everybody who's played a role in that, but 92%, its highest ever. Last year at 88.89 was the highest we'd ever been. This is a significant jump yet again. So thank you to the Board of Education for all your support, but thank you to the people, boots on the ground, who are doing this work every day. And I will end it on that unless you guys have any questions.
Do have a question. Are we still doing the endowment golf tournament on the 25th? Because I didn't have that on my calendar.
Yeah, no, I don't know why, when I copied and pasted over, I think it copied and pasted. We do not have any of that on the 25th. So none of those are dates.
We just kidding.
So I'm going to delete that right now. And if you all refresh, because that was a boo-boo on my part when I pulled over all the good things, everything else was right, but those dates, none of them are correct, other than July 4th.
Every time I do that, it won't let me get refresh. I thought it was my computer going off.
I didn't know what it was, so I was like, hey, y'all look.
Yeah.
So no, my apologies, none of those dates were correct, so I will get the corrected dates up there, but except for July 4th, it's still a holiday.
Right.
But the holiday is not on the 5th, that's a Saturday, and
I know.
anybody will
You were
work-
closed anyway on Saturday. Notice that.
Nobody's working on Saturday.
Yeah.
Or Friday.
I'm gonna have to get a blue bucket. In Rotary Club, we've got a blue bucket and money goes in there for Alzheimer's research for a trust on there. And at our Rotary meetings, if somebody's phone rings during the meeting, you have to put $1 in the Alzheimer's bucket. We're gonna have to get us a blue bucket. I wanted one of those at work. Anytime anybody's cell phone goes pay up, on there. So anyhow, no, you're good. You're good.
It's okay. I was just panicking.
No, I was looking at it, no, we don't.
That's good. Well, we're gonna get some more updates from Miss Allison Kemp Sullivan for the new middle school.
Did not have a formal report this month, but I will share with you, that we have rebar coming next week, which is very exciting. That means the building's gonna be starting soon. And, the next week after that, the contractor that's gonna be starting foundations will be mobilized. So that is a big deal. So rebar coming. We also have, a pre-con on Monday with the soil nail contractor, so they'll be mobilizing soon. So that's three big key milestones that we're doing.
I've had several people comment that there looks like there's a lot of dirt being moved right now, and they are excited that they're moving dirt.
You can see it from 221.
And if it would stop raining, it would help.
Yeah,
And the more I read your reports and all the documents connected to this, the more I appreciate your expertise that you're providing for us. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anybody have any? Yeah,
Yours is,
yeah, you're on down
you're
here.
coming up soon.
Yeah.
all right.
Any questions for Miss Allison? All right, we'll see you in a minute. On there. Next, we will go into action items for the board. First, we've got under there is personnel. Be a little different. In the amended agenda, we broke some things out. So what we'll look at first is doing we're pulling out of that the assistant principal at the middle school and the superintendent contract for a separate vote on those. So the first item is the personnel minus those two. So, and that includes the personnel and the addendum for that. Do we have a motion to approve the personnel and the addendum?
I make a motion, we approve the personnel and the addendum.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor, raise your hand. Next under there, we've got the assistant principal at Ashe County Middle School. So do I have a motion to approve that position?
I move we approve the position.
Thank you, Ms. Ward. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Next, we've got the superintendent's contract in closed session to go ahead and inform the superintendent. She did have a evaluation of distinguished overall on that. So this is to update her contract by a year. Do I have a motion to approve that contract?
I make a motion that we approve it.
Thank you, Mrs. Calhoun. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Ward. Any questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Motion carries. Next, we've got on there is the CN furniture package. So, Ms. Allison, I guess you're back up. What is CN? Oh, okay, thank you. All these acronyms may not mean what I think they do. So, the CN Clark Nixon. Yep.
So as part of the overall budget, FF&E, which is, you know,
I knew that.
anything that's not fixed, right? And that's gonna include, telecommunication equipment too. That's AV, furniture, fixtures, equipment. Clark Nixon's uniquely is, I got a proposal from them to do furniture specifically. And for obvious reasons, because they are the designers for the building. It's a seamless process to go to them because they already know the building, the floor plans, the design, and, you know, that they understand building and the goals of where we're going. For the entire building, we have a little less than $4 million for all of the things that need to go in the building. This is cameras, this is security. This is all the equipment that need to go in the IT closets. You know, in my own numbers and working beside interior designers myself, I think it's gonna, for just the furniture itself, it's gonna be around $2 million for furniture. I have gone through this before. It's all a lot today with Clark Nixon, asked a lot of questions, and feel like, we're in a good place with them. It's about a 3-year process to work with them to get to where we need to be. So that's the proposal I'm bringing to you. It's about a 6-month process. By the time you, actually order the furniture to get it delivered, you have to be very timely with it. If you order it too soon, you're going to be storing furniture. You don't want to put it in a warehouse. If it's too late, you don't have furniture for the kids to sit in. So it's a lot of work. I've been beside this process for years. It's not something we really can do in-house, but in any event, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Will some of this be custom designed furniture, or are they going to be selecting? I know they will be selecting from things already available, but will some of it have to be custom built? I'm assuming because of the designs that may be the
So
case.
they will be working with manufacturers, but they do have a selection process where they can select the fabrics that will work with the design of the building. But it won't be custom, no,
Okay,
because we obviously don't want to spend any money,
right.
right? But we want to make sure it's durable, and we also want to make sure that we want to buy things that are, if we can, on state contract. And possibly if there's enough people, it might be that we can actually bid it out and get better prices than its own state contract too. That's something I want to pursue.
Good
It won't
idea.
be possible for everything, because you might need 1 of these or 10 of these, but if we have, 200 things, we're not going to bid it out. But it's going to have to be a process. We'll have to work with the school system to do procurement process.
And they will do that work for us, but in conjunction with meeting with the staff in the school.
Correct. Yes. I'll have to help in that they won't be out here as far as like scheduling the trucks and, helping do a touch list. I'll have to help with that. So I have to stay around for one meeting.
We're happy that you're staying around.
Well, that's it.
That's a lot, but thank you.
It's a lot. There is a lot to it.
So, and I didn't get a chance to go over to the middle school to look, but it's really modern stuff that Sherry really likes, and we don't have to cart all that stuff that's been around the last 50 years to.
Well, I would like to take there's a few pieces that are new, that are functional, that, like Mr. Baker has a few pieces. Like a few
Functional storage things in CTE that are functional,
Yeah, there are new.
that are good.
There'll be closets.
Yeah.
I wouldn't throw away. It's broken. Yes, I agree.
Or if it has termites, it's.
Metal, they're metal. I wouldn't throw it. I'm too practical. I wouldn't throw anything away that's good and new.
Fine.
And I was
Maybe
talked to
sure.
Nixon about that. I said, we have to incorporate those things in the plan.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Allison, for all your. I wouldn't know where to start on this stuff, so I'm glad you do. So, thank you.
So do I have a motion to approve the CN Furniture Package and Procurement?
I make a motion that we,
All right, thank you, Ms. Calhoun. Do I have a second?
I second.
I got 2, so, thank you to both of you for the
welcome.
second, on there. So any other questions, comments?
My heart stopped when you said how much, but then I realized, we won't get rid of it anytime soon. So the furniture, the new furniture, I mean, it's
I know
durable,
it's a lot, but
The big space.
but it's a big space and they
It is.
deserve that. The new building
And that
deserves
includes
that.
like cafeteria tables and, I mean, there's a lot of things that are considered FF&E.
it's 150,000 square foot building. That's everything that goes to the building.
And I'm sure you plan for the contingency on this one.
It's in the budget.
Thank you.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Thank you so much. Next, we've got on here is the consent agenda for the board, which are the minutes from the June 2nd meeting. You've got some dates for the board meeting date changes. That's when they fall on your holidays, et cetera, for the upcoming year. And then we've got the procurement or procedure, sorry, we just talked about procurement, but procedure 3320 on field trips. on there. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion that we approve the consent, budget. What was there?
All right, thank you. Do I have a second?
That's like it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Um,
Mhm.
on the minutes, could we have a little more information? I know it's hard to pick if there's too much or there's not enough. But I tried to research some things and it was very hard to do that. So if we could get a happy medium there on, just to remind me of what we did discuss last time.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. Lori used to write a book. I think we don't.
So all those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Next, we've got the 25-26 interim budget resolution. Thought Miss Amanda would have a binder, but she's just got a folder.
Not much we can do with it.
My dad was right. The older you get, the faster time goes. It feels like I was just here as the external budget resolution for 24-25. But as you know, they have not passed the state budget. There is no state budget in sight.
Here maybe October.
That would be probably wishful thinking. So in order to continue paying salaries and regular expenses, I'm requesting that the board approve the interim budget resolution provided in your packet.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the budget amendments?
I make the emotion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second.
What'd you do?
That's an emotion.
Oh, emotion. Well,
Whoops.
there you go. Yeah,
It's not the first.
numbers make her excited.
Most
Yeah.
people are.
Any questions or comments?
Are there any things in here, Amanda, that we have not discussed before?
Well, that's budget amendments. That's coming up. This is different. This is the interim budget resolution.
Oh, that one.
This is just
Okay.
keeping salaries going out
I
at
didn't make a copy.
Keeping us rolling.
25 levels.
Until it's kind of hoping they would do some mini budgets, but they did not. Mini.
Zero.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed. Well, considering people want to be paid.
That's a good thing.
And this keeps it at what it's been.
Until the law changes. Yeah.
Any other questions?
If they do change the, like state salaries and those kinds of things, would that be retroactive?
It typically is.
Okay, so that's up to them.
That is up to them.
Okay.
Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, you're good to go, which I think you're coming back. Next I've got on here is the, oh yeah. Why did I do the wrong one?
Budget.
Now we've got the budget amendments. So here we go. Now we're in
Now
there.
we're-
Sorry. I clicked on the wrong one.
I have all those.
So typically throughout the year on the state budget, they do some minor adjustments. This year they were a little more than minor just because they provided some hurricane money for transportation and different things. They gave us the summer recovery money. And it put us a little bit of a balance, but that's 272,000 covers that. Sure, we're in line with the auditors.
I had a question on capital outlay. What did that go to?
The 6 million.
It says 7,700,000.
So even though the county pays for middle school construction, we still have to book it on our books.
Okay.
So that was a recommendation from the auditor that we put that amount because I think they're right. Allison's already gone, but I think they're right around 6 million right now in expenses they paid out. So we will do this next year, when I present, in the fall, when I present the budget resolution. Auditor has recommended putting about $40 million in that line because the bulk of our expenses are going to be the next 2 years. So you'll see a large number in capital outlay that is not really our money, but is our money. But
Mhm.
general accounting principle require us to book it on our book.
And the rest of the revenues were mostly from hurricane relief funds.
On I want to talk about current expense a little bit because that was basically due to charter school increases. We're just seeing more and more kids enrolling in NC Virtual and NC Cyber. We had a new one come up this year, Pine Springs Academy, that is offering virtual services. We started out with 35 or 36 and ended up with 45 kids. Well, at $230 some dollars, plus 273, I think, right now a month per child. It's a lot of money.
So this is the loss of ADM. Average daily.
Well, and they could come from homeschool into the charter school, but if they live in our county, or they could have been out of county for some other reason and gone to charter, and then we pay for them. We just don't, we don't get
It could be
paid
our
when they
kids, it
come
could
to
be
us.
homeschool kids, as long as their address is within Ashe County's.
The money comes to you to pay them.
It doesn't.
No,
come
we
to
don't
us.
get-
This is from our current expense allotment that commissioners give us. We are required by law to give a portion of that to charge.
That's what I meant.
And we don't get it on the other end. So what we have in the first 20 days is what we have from the state, from ADM. So if they are not with us, we don't get those funds when they come back to us. And typically they come back to us.
Any other questions? All right, do I have a motion to approve the 24-25 budget amendments?
I move we approve the amendments to the budget for 24-25.
All right, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, motion carries.
It's your signature.
Okay,
Coach, you're gonna do the us and the children. You want me to do that? That's fine. Well, Joe, you.
Which
you'll
one?
do with the children.
Wait.
okay. I've got
Next.
facilities use next.
Oh, that's thinking. She's getting a baptism by fire in policy.
Good times.
Yeah, it's fun stuff.
Yeah.
We have presented the policy with strike throughs. I think y'all had requested that. Do you have any questions on what is presented?
I'm a little bit concerned about the fee schedule. I think it's a little bit high for our county.
For the facilities or for the personnel?
Facilities mainly. I wasn't sure of what.
We didn't change anything there. The other thing we changed was the custodial
And
and
that was,
that piece.
my question was on the opposite end, because as of whenever this policy was last adjusted or changed, you had these exact same dollar amounts. There's been a lot of inflation. So how much is this inflation there going to impact us? Is it going to hurt us? Or are these things something that you've determined remains pretty stable?
I can say that, we don't have a lot of facility use. What we do have is recurring things. The bowls,
Empty bowls.
empty bowls,
And if they use our kitchen, then we have to charge for that and have to have somebody there. But we don't charge them. I mean, that is a good community event. And so that comes through me and I'm like, you're good. And we move on because it is a service to our community.
But we do have to charge for the personnel.
Correct.
What ends up happening is that most of the times it puts them in time and a half because they've already filled their duties to us.
Is that why
That's why. it's-
I knew they weren't making that kind of money.
No, it's time and a half, especially on our custodian staff, because we've been so short-handed. There's no way they could adjust their schedule during the week right now to be there on a Saturday to cover an event like this. So we're losing money on personnel is the issue at the moment.
Okay, so I'm going to, we are keeping, the community use and all of everything else. It's just basically that the, fees have changed for personnel. Is that what you're saying, Kendall?
And just a few changes in verbiage here.
And I took out the part where it says that for-profits not available to use our facility or not allowed to use our facility. So I did take that out because we do have a couple of businesses that use it and they are for profit.
I'm very thankful that we do have, our community can use these facilities because as we discussed last time, it's very difficult to find a facility here that can be used, especially, I know they had one at the high school, I believe this last weekend, a fundraiser
Yes.
for,
Yeah, and we did not, because it was a fundraiser for the hurricane, we did not charge them for the use. Now, people if they needed it, but not for the actual space.
that's a good thing.
And we've been doing that for a long time, but as far as even before I came, we've had for-profit places actually use the facility before, even though it said in policy that they weren't. And so that's why we wanted to change the policy, because there are some reasons why somebody in the community might need a space because there are so very few of them.
And when it comes to child nutrition, if they need to use the cafeterias, it is a liability for them to be in there without a cafeteria staff person. It is dangerous. There's a lot of dangerous equipment in there if you don't know how to use right. And plus, it's also, I think it's part of your policies.
Yes, it is. It's under the, all of our passive and everything like that, and, just all.
Well,
We're
that
not
makes sense.
supposed to, yeah, let
That makes
anybody in that kitchen unless there is a staff, and we're there, serve safe staff.
And Janet, I was basing my, I looked up, a gymnasium rental at, Family Central is $15 an hour. So ours seem to be quite a bit. If we're not having a lot of use of that, then, but, it seemed, if I wanted to have a birthday party, that's not gonna work. That's a little expensive, right?
And I don't think it's set up to discourage, but every time you flip those lights on in that gymnasium, it's a high cost. Energy's just crazy right now. And they've kept a custodian on staff. It almost makes it impossible. When they're for-profit people come in, they need to be reimbursed us back for what they're doing.
I'm just curious, what would people rent them for? I mean, do they actually rent it for birthday parties?
No.
Used to with school,
They
but
do Family
that's not
Central.
happened in a long time.
Okay, got
And it used to be a lot of reunions, but they got waived usually. If they,
I didn't know if that.
you have such small turnout for the reunion.
Well, I thank you for doing the legwork on this for us.
Well, we can thank this lady right here.
So do I have a motion to approve this policy?
I move we approve the policy.
Okay, I got one. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Next, we'll put you on the
Joe,
chiller.
Come on up, Joe.
So
Well,
I,
the high school chillers, we've been babying along for 3-4 years now.
Yes.
They are older than the Westwood chiller that went out, so we've been holding our breath a little bit on them, and Jody's team has done some work on them this spring, I believe.
Yeah, we just replaced 2 motors in them last week and we're rebuilding those motors in process now, so they're starting to show their fatigue. Motors we pulled off were original, but the plan is to replace and have those, and we have concerns of one of the compressors being gone on it now, so we would be really eager and urge the board to approve a new chiller, because lead time on any of this equipment is very, very, very long. Previous experiences, even when we worked the biennium budget in Washington, there was a crunch on time with the biannual budget. So as with board's approval, we would be able to have that installed.
Yeah, the bid process takes a little while. We'll have to get with Fred to get him to write the bid up. Jody's gonna work with Matthew Ward from DPI, who he has done some preliminary work, but we'll need to do more, which that service thankfully is free. Hopefully he's not backed up too far.
When I went to the conference, and their team is thin, they were.
Everything.
Yeah.
But we would like to move on this as quickly as possible just because of the lead time on food. Love to have it in next week or summer. Before it gets hot.
I appreciate the advanced planning as what experience with Westwood and the no air in the gym. I move that we approve this.
okay. So got a motion to approve the chiller. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
When it says the county of Ash has provided the 887, what fund, did that come from our regular funds or is that from sales tax or what fund does that come
I
from?
have not talked to Julie about it. It should have been the final notice. It was one of two items that they had listed out specifically that they were funding.
Okay, because I know our sales tax next year, I think will go to the new middle school. Is that not
Sales
correct?
tax will go to the goal probably for the next.
What's that, give you, what, $200,000 a year or so? You don't have a ballpark of that?
That's just what, a percent of the sales tax is for that? 1.5%?
1/2, not 1.5.
Oh, 1/2. Okay, 0.5.
1.5 cent sales tax.
0.5. Yeah, okay.
So,
That's what had they been giving that to the hospital?
No, it's,
No,
it's,
it's been a different.
public school money.
Is it? Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, so that'd be around 200 something.
Yeah.
Compared to other things that I know.
Yeah, but I know that it goes to the loan after, when we start paying the loan back, whenever that is.
That's how we pay for our school.
We've got a motion and a second on that. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, raise your hand. Right, you can get in the cool and order it.
Welcome, Mr. Bauer. Thankful that he was able to step in quickly in this role. So, got a lot of good ideas and a lot of plans, I think, to help us get things on track. But we want permission to buy a activity bus. That was the other item that the county had line itemed out in the budget. We have the other budget on order, or the other bus on order, but deadline, I think it's still August for that one.
That's that's the handicap.
That's the handicap
Right,
one.
with the ramp,
The
with
Medicaid
the
money.
lift, yeah.
This one. And lead time on this, we are desperate for activity buses.
How many do we have?
I didn't bring my budget thing, but I think there's 8 or 9. One of them's over 30 years old, but it stays in the county. I think it's CTE hauls stuff from Type with it.
Sometimes.
1990.
1990?
Yes,
That broke my heart. That's the year I graduated high school.
that's all it is.
I bet the new one won't last that long. I was totally shocked by how much it cost. I'm going, of course, when you look at a new vehicle of any kind, it's gone up.
Pre-COVID, they were about 90 to 93.
Yeah, that's why I was going, oh my gosh.
It's insane.
And then the lead time on them are ridiculous. Like, we haven't gotten the newest one that we ordered last year. Cause they make them from scratch. They build them
Build
from
them as
scratch.
you were.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate the commissioners filling the gap on what we've saved.
It's one of the things they really pointed out in our meeting as a concern. Janet was there and they were really worried about all the buses going out of county.
And these all have air conditioning too. I rode on the ones without air conditioning, years ago. All right, so do we have a motion to approve the purchase of this activity bus?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, raise your hand. All right, good to order.
We'll stay put.
No.
Yeah.
I've had the,
Yeah, you do not have to get up.
all right,
You do not have to get up.
so child nutrition, be it on the piggyback. I like the name for that. Being in nutrition,
Yeah.
could have called it bacon back or something.
So one of the beautiful things of being in the northwest corner of the state is that we live in a great, beautiful place. However, when it comes time to purchasing things, sometimes it's a little far to come. And unfortunately, Cisco, who formally withdrew their bid that they had provided and you all had approved at the beginning, sometime during the year, during the normal bid process. They withdrew it. And so we had to scramble. Thankfully, Tammy found out while she was at her child nutrition end of the year conference and was able to talk with a couple of our surrounding districts to see if we could piggyback off of their bids. And we had looked at a couple of different school districts and what the possibility was, but the best option for us ends up being Allegheny County. Now, the downfall to that one is that instead of being $4 per case, it's going to be $4.50 per case. But the good thing is we'll actually be able to feed our kids.
And it was gonna be $4.50 in Watauga also.
And right,
And I would have
correct.
still had to done an additional bid for paper supplies and all that stuff.
But they're with a different company than Cisco, and Cisco did not get the bid for the others.
Okay.
So this is really our only option.
Well, do we have a motion to approve this bid piggyback?
I'll make a motion that we approve piggyback.
All right,
Yes.
all right. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Got a couple there. Any other questions or comments?
You explained to me again why it was more lucrative to go to Allegheny. Is it just simply because of the paper supplies? Is that not?
Yeah, basically, because you know, the process of putting out a bid, I still had to follow all of these procurement regulations.
Right.
And so, you know, the 10 days of having it out for bid and all that, there wasn't the time, you know, to get it in, even before I hurt myself. It was trying to push it to get everything done, but so I can update the software and we can get our first orders in August. I mean, it's just, I think it's good practice to go ahead and do that with Allegheny, and then at next March, I will have to bid out again. Yeah.
And it's probably gonna be more expensive and
I don't know.
Everything.
That's just that's up to them as it goes.
Well, and I think we should share it with them as well. So if there's an opportunity to pull more together, if we're gonna get what we need, we might be able to get a better deal.
for sure. But what does it look like for federal monies? And I know that's not part of this, but I've been really curious as to how some of those things have filtered down for the new school year.
Of course, we lost that LFS grant, which is local foods to schools, is what that is. And that was it was all fresh produce that we purchased from, it's not the fresh fruit and vegetable. That one's been approved and we are signed up to do that again next year. This one was totally just produce. It was actually a purchase from local farmers. But we didn't have any local farmers that are GAP certified close enough to supply the need that we had. So I was buying it from farm to school. So it was great. And so that is the biggest removal of any kind of money at this point. We've been, Trip was here on Friday, and he assessed my CEP claims and everything, and so that was approved. And we will have the no cost meals again next school year. So we're just holding our breath, with child nutrition, because things are changing and things will continue to change. But, we just have to wait to see what the lawmakers decide.
Wait.
Yeah, wait, and then, retroactively pick something, like, you're saying, so. Just at the mercy of the situation at this point. But I feel blessed that we've got food coming and we'll be able to feed kids and, the rest of it.
Thank you for your commitment, and especially under those conditions. We appreciate you handling
Be here
that.
for this, and, it just worked out that they decided that we get to not wait until Wednesday.
I thank you for partnering with other folks. It's, pardon the pun, it's not always good to have all your eggs in one basket. But it's good to
It
share.
worked out because, I spent Thursday morning in Wilkes with the director from Wilkes and the director from Allegheny. And we may have had contact with Monica and Watauga. I mean, you know, there's a process to all of this because, you know, Allegheny has stepped away from a manufacturer, a company that come in and cook for them. And so we're sort of, you know, in the same area of having to update our systems and create, you know, work on our menus and everything together. So it is creating a bonding, there's a better way of saying that professionally, I'm sure, but we will all do better because we're working together.
Any other questions? All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we've got the added item for action under there, and that is the Justine pre-K classroom approval at Blue Ridge Elementary School. So you all talk about that.
So I'm first of all, proud of the team that's been working to make this happen. Thank you to Mitchell and Terry and Jody's team to get the room set up. But before you can do all of this stuff, you have to have everything up and ready to go with the intention of opening, and then you go through the actual approval process. And so there are many steps, and we're just glad that this was able to happen now so that you don't have to go back and consider it after the fact. But I'm really proud of our team for working toward having a pre-K classroom at Blue Ridge Elementary School. It'll prevent students from having to travel so far from their homes, and families can feel good that that's where they're going to be next, an easy transition into kindergarten.
Days off drop, I got one.
Thank you. I might have.
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. But this is an application that, as a new site, even though Blue Ridge previously had a pre-K, we had to go through the entire process again because it had been some time. And this allows us to apply for Blue Ridge Elementary School to have their own pre-K. Currently, we will have 14 students, so that means we can take 4 more in that classroom as an NC pre-K classroom. And then, of course, we've had the pre-K, I don't know what it is.
I don't know
Here all of a sudden. Thank you. Thank you. But I think this is our goal, is to have universal pre-K, be able to offer every 4-year-old an opportunity, not as a requirement, but if you want your child in pre-K, we want to be able to provide that for you. I'd love to be able to offer every classroom for free, but NC pre-K is free. So for the families that qualify, so we're very excited. And Terry, is there anything I'm missing in that?
Very much. Like, we're excited, but it has been a team effort to be able to make sure, and it is a process that will take the rest of the summer, but we're going to get there for the first day of school. And Amanda also is getting the part because of our licensing consultant in the meetings and things that we have to have. But the fire marshal, health inspector, the licensing consultant from Raleigh, DHHS, have all been involved in this process.
I do have a question about the playground.
Yes.
That playground that's in the shaded area in the round part,
Yes.
is that going to be totally pre-K playground like it used to be, or is that going to be a more? I know the fence needs to be fixed.
Okay, so that area will not, so the playground area that is connected to the building there on that wing, that would be the pre-K area.
Exactly. Yes.
So it will get some new equipment.
Yes, and it already has. It's gotten tricycles, it got new mulch. It got the sandbox taken out because the sandbox is usually a hazard for outside play for NC pre-K. So it's already up to standards and it will be inspected tomorrow.
Okay, and on the other playground, is that fence going to be fixed?
It is, yes, that request has already been put in and planned so that it is updated. And then there's some other updates to some of the other playgrounds as well that we're looking at and having later this summer before school starts back.
Playgrounds have gone out the roof too about, fixing and installing playgrounds. It's really expensive.
Yes, it has to be, licensed also for NC pre-K, so
Those were
they
different.
worked really hard on making sure that that is licensed also, ready for licensure, which process will start tomorrow.
And you said you had positions available for parents who might not send their kids?
Yes, I have four students, 4 openings for children at that site. Is that direction?
Yes,
Yes.
because I know some parents have been reluctant to send their kids on the bus that far to early learning center. So I'm really excited about putting this pre-K back where there's an additional hour less on the bus from Blue Ridge every day. So I'm really excited about that.
We called every parent that had the address in Blue Ridge District that applied for NC pre-K about 2 weeks ago, and made sure that every parent that lived in Blue Ridge District had the option to choose Blue Ridge.
That's cool.
Well, do I have a motion to approve this pre-K site at Blue Ridge Elementary School?
I will make the motion that we approve the site at Blue Ridge.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Got 2, that'll work. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. That's great. Next, we've got some updates, discussions, considerations for the board. First under that is the dress code policy 4316.
So the policies that we have brought to you and some communications will help inform. They will come back to you in August for consideration under action. But this is to help us to prepare all the student handbooks and to make sure that we are following the policies, and it's what our principals and teachers are wanting as far as the policy is concerned as well. So the first one under there is dress code. And our current dress code policy has a whole laundry list of things that had been discussed back when, I think it was back when Dustin first became principal of the high school, and he apologized for not being, he's on vacation this week with his family. But what he has asked or requested is that we go to the standard school board association policy to make it, first of all, I guess easier to enforce. And the big sticking point for him specifically was the hats. And I think he was a big proponent of not having hats in school when he first came. And then I think, is that the battle that you want to choose when you're trying to keep boys in school? And I think that was probably the main thing. And then, of course, when you get into appropriate and not appropriate and start measuring skirts and pants, like that's a really tough thing to do. So it leaves it to our principals to say, okay, you're in school, cover it up, give them a t-shirt if you need to, pull up the pants, whatever that means for them. And that's still included in here, just not as specific in here, so that as far as the disruptive or obscene or health and safety of others, that's what the school board, non-discriminatory, that's the big piece that we could get into if we start saying girls and skirt length. So this is specifically, keeps it simple from a policy standpoint, and that way we can move to having that in our student handbooks that Jamie and Dr. Moken are now working on alongside of the principals. Did I miss anything in that conversation, Lindsay?
What was the problem? You said had a problem enforcing the previous policy.
Well, getting I think they realize that boys want to wear hats to school. I mean, they wear hats all the time. There are very few that don't. And I think that was the biggest thing. I think he thought he would be able to keep kids in school and wellness battle. And we are locking down the phones this year. We want to make sure that we are enforcing the rules and able to do that across the board. And that was one of the things that became a battle that I don't think he was maybe not worth fighting that battle.
If I could make a comment here, there are hats that will be obviously detrimental, like if it's too high, too wide, and this does allow them to do that. I have a granddaughter who at puberty, her hair started turning really curly randomly over her head, and the rest of her hair was completely straight. And she was totally uncomfortable unless she had a beanie on covering her entire head. And so they're saying that all hats are not allowed, I think, creates issues, especially with cancer patients and other medical issues in my granddaughter's situation. So I like the simplicity of it.
I have a problem with the new policy because it really doesn't give very specific. There's a trade-off here. What is interpretive is provocative or obscene. That is one of the things, and that is very interpretive. What a 15-year-old may not see as provocative, a school personnel might see as provocative. And to be frank with you, I have seen some dress codes come out of that building that are embarrassing to say the least. And we had a policy here. Whatever policy that we adopt, it needs to be upheld. It needs to be enforced. It needs to have consequences. And this is just very little of, oh, well, whatever you want to do, let's do it. How is an assistant principal who usually deals with these things, how are they gonna, it says violates a reasonable non-discriminatory dress code adopted and publicized by the school. Well, that's what we have now. So what is that? And we spent so much time and effort we had committee after committee and input from parents and middle school and elementary school and high school. And we worked on that a long time. This is not an old policy at all, compared to some of our policies, right? Okay.
I think it was 22.
June
Yeah, it
30th,
was
22.
22, so I'm a little bit hesitant to go to something that is this wide open. Maybe hats need to be included. I know I'm personally against the hats, but I know a lot of the teachers said that took out some battles in schools. But at the same time, is that different for middle school? Is that different for high school? This policy that we already have, everybody had input as to what was acceptable. And I don't see that. I see a lot of unacceptability here. I see,
A lot of it's open, it's left open.
it's not specific enough to enforce. So why even have one?
Right.
I mean, the way it reads, there's no dress code here.
Well, you can't put anything on. If you have private parts hanging out, you obviously can't wear that. So that would be provocative or obscene. If something is, chains that are hanging off of your hands, that could endanger the safety of others. So that would be not allowed.
But that's in the policy we have now. Those things are in the policy we have now.
Correct, but I think it's very specific on that policy that includes hats. So what would you all like to have in there? We'll do our best to enforce as much as they can and expect our teachers and principals and assistant principals to enforce those. So if you want to say no hats, obviously we're gonna work to follow that policy. But this is the School Board Association policy. You can make it tighter if you'd like.
I think
just
we
want to have
need to
something
make it
that's going to be enforceable. And I know that the feedback from our principals, of course, is that hats versus no hats, is that a battle that they don't necessarily see everybody that comes in? Is that a battle that they want everybody to fight? Then
If it's a
let's
real
see.
Something I really like about this as a parent of girls is it does talk about requesting that parents outfit their children in clothing that's conducive to women and talking about, you know, dress and grooming standards as determined by the student and as a parent will be deemed acceptable. To me, I appreciate that, as a girl mom, because it's hard. And, you know, especially with shorts, and y'all know, my girls are pretty conservative, but I felt like with the old policy, it was very hard to dress my girls and still allow them to fit within like lengths, and the conversations that Josh is what his.
My
head
sixth
at.
grader had the same thing.
It felt very, you know, hats or no hats, the current policy is very hard for a mom with female students, especially a principal who, you know, or, you know, our kids get looked at for like, what are they wearing? And, are their shorts too short, which my kids don't wear, and if they do, I fuss at them, but I do appreciate that piece in there, the parent, and the way I tend to, and I think a lot of the administrators, you know, dress code really needs to be a conversation and I think what I've noticed is when you have that conversation with the student, you know, about why it's not appropriate. I'm not gonna say all the time because they're kids, right? But a lot of times they'll understand why, you know, it's not appropriate for the environment you're in. Sure, you wanna wear it, you know, on the weekend or out to the movies, whatever, but I think there's some educating that we have to do with all these other things with cell phones or whatever. But what I do like about this is it doesn't, you know, it's one of those things where when we start locking ourselves into stuff and you have to pull out. I mean, Earl was an AP at the high school and I remember when I was there as a student, and I remember, or when Mr. McNeil at West Jefferson Elementary and all the girls having to stand up and put our arms down and the measuring and like, so I do feel like whatever we do, I like the parent piece in there. I think it trusts our parents and it opens up conversations for us to have with parents, and that, you know, hey, we do want you looking at what your kids are wearing and talking about what's conducive to learning. I also like that it takes some of the heat off of our female students and gives us a little bit more autonomy there. Because I know as a female student it was hard. It was hard when you felt like people were looking at the width of your straps or were your shorts too short, you know? So I do appreciate that as a girl mom. And I also appreciate that as an administrator, I've got the autonomy to have those conversations more than just like picking it out of a list. So, but I also see, you know, is it too open? Dress code's really hard, and it was hard as a teacher, and then a male teacher having to address female students. Dress code is a very hard thing.
And I agree with everything you just said. But sitting up there, it's very entertaining as a mom, sitting up there and seeing these kids come out. I mean, they're in like short little halter tops, belly button showing, little spaghetti straps. And I understand it's a beast up there and it's something they're going to have to enforce. But as a mom, I don't want my boy seeing some girl walking around in something that's not appropriate. And we are teaching our kids that this is okay. Do you go to work dressed like that? No. And we're supposed to be educating our kids. And I think if we have a standard of saying, this is what we expect, this is what needs to be dressed. Because as a mom, I have a boy. I don't have no girl, and I thank the Lord I don't have girls. I love you all that have girls. But as a boy, opening that can of worms creates a lot of other problems. Without going into discussion of that. That opens a lot of can of worms. And I truly believe we have to set expectations. This is what we have. Parents, you need to be parents. Look at your kids before they go out in the mornings. If they don't pass dress code, you know what? Call mama. You need to come get your kid, take her home, dress her, whatever, and then bring them back. I think we have to tighten it. I mean, if you don't, we're just wasting our time, and we're wasting our time with these policies.
I have two girls and they're both in managerial positions. And both of them have standards that they have to have for their employees as according to dress code. One daughter works for Madewell. She's not allowed to wear any jeans to work except Madewell jeans. I mean, each company that we have, and I'm sure Josh has dress codes in his company as well, have these dress codes. And if we're to prepare these students for the real world that they're going to be out in, then I think if we have a reasonable dress code, then we should enforce a reasonable dress code for these. It's preparation for them for later. And I'm iffy about the hats because I know how the boys are and I know how they love their hats or whatever. But I walked into school near the end of school and here's this kid walking around with a construction hat on. Okay. And I'm going, what? And if that is not a problem in my class, that would be a problem for me as a classroom teacher to have some kid sitting there in his construction hat. What's the purpose there? Well, it's self-expression, but he's also going to get a lot of comments. It's going to cause some learning problems there, I think, for what kinds of hats. Now, a baseball cap, probably not. They're used to those. They're farm boys. I get that. But in the workplace, if you go to work for even Life Store, whomever, they're not going to allow you to wear your hats. So are we doing them a disservice saying, okay, y'all can wear whatever you want to? And unfortunately, we don't have all moms that are as concerned about what their girls look like as others. What is acceptable to you is different than another mom. But as you say, if you've got spaghetti straps and belly buttons and I know the shorts thing has been an issue with many, many parents. So maybe that needs to be adjusted as to, what is acceptable shorts. And I know in this day and time, even as short as I am, it's hard to get them long enough. And so.
Larry Bird's back in style.
Can,
The Larry Birds are back in style.
Oh, Lordy.
can I ask a question about getting input from the principals at the different levels of what they would like to see that is minimal, but covers some of these issues that have been
Sure.
talked about, so that we could then move forward with how to increase it, because I don't want it 6 pages long like it was. But there is some reasonable reasons for adding some minor adjustments, variations.
I think everybody can agree that we don't want it to disrupt the learning environment, as with any other behavior, right? So, but it also has to be manageable and it's hard to manage when we have that laundry list. So I think that's a good idea, if we can kind of come up with an idea of how, what's the definition of disruptive?
See, that's the problem that I'm having. What's disruptive for me or Polly may not be disruptive for some of our younger teachers. We come from a different era, probably. And, is the middle school need to be different? Does the middle school need to be different than the high school? Because the middle schools where you're going to have kids pushing the envelope as far as they can push it without getting in trouble. And if so.
And that's why if you have it across the board, it's everybody.
Yeah, but. Ms.
Yeah,
Hyde, would
But
you
they
care
used to,
weigh in?
remember, you'd have to put your hand down and your shorts had to come
Oh,
below your.
I've had girls.
And
yeah.
a caveat to that, in 7th grade, I grew an inch a month for 6 months. And my family was very poor at that time. So if you make it too detailed, you're hurting some people, so.
So how about if I make a Google Doc for the principals and I'll share that information with you all?
That'd be good.
That has what on it, I'm sorry.
I'll ask them.
With their
for their
feedback.
input.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
And I understand their headgear piece. Now, I'll fall into the old school a little bit, because what I notice in public, the headgear is not so much an issue, it's a sign of respect.
Exactly.
When you enter a building and you take off your hat for gentlemen, for men, and I'm out in public now and at events and things like that, and you have the pledge or you have the national anthem played or somebody has a prayer, they don't take that hat off.
Yes.
I'm sorry, that bothers me. Now, protocol states that if it's below 0, you can leave your hat on. It's okay. If it's very cold or raining, that protocol allows that. But to me, it's a sign of respect. Just visited Washington for the first time ever this past week. When I rode on the trolley, I'll get tore up, sorry. We drove by Arlington Cemetery. I removed my hat out of respect to those that were interned. I was not even in the cemetery, but I mean, for me to teach my son who was sitting with me, we're going to take our hat off for these folks, you know, on there. I understand it's the thing that's in style right now, but to me, it's a learning piece as well, that you learn that cap, that top comes off at certain times, and it's not because you're not going to get sunburned in that classroom, but it's just a sign of respect that you're entering a building and I'm showing you respect. Jefferson Landing, if you go in there and you're playing golf and you're wearing your hat and you come in to have lunch, there's big signs, take off your hat when you come in. It's a big no-no for the golfers to come in with their hat on there. So I understand both pieces. To me, it's just kind of it's an outward expression of my respect for whoever's doing something else, just to remove the hat on there. And I can understand like beanies and things like that. That's different on
And
there.
I think we need to look at students who are having health concerns and address those separately. Of course, there should be exceptions if the chemo is an issue or how, whatever is an issue there. I think that, that could be easily worked in as an exception to some of this. But, to have this open, I just cannot have it this open. I cannot approve something that doesn't have more guidelines than this. And I understand what you're saying, Lindsay. We do need to look at, see what's reasonable for certain girls and what's not. And even at middle school, you're right. Janet, they grow monthly. I can remember replacing shoes every month and pants, and especially between grade year in high school, every month. It's when the boys grow. So there's that issue as well. It seems like our dress code policy does have more guidelines for girls than it does the boys. And so I don't know where that weighs in. I've got mixed feelings about that as well. I think it comes down to a lot of parenting. So if your parents, if you're listening out there, we need to you to parent. And that's hard sometimes in this day and age to say, no, you're not wearing that to school. But I think some parents use dress code as, oh, I can't let you wear that to school. It's against the dress code too. I think some parents use that as their rationale for clothing as well, which is good. It takes the pressure off of parents in some cases. So I don't know. Maybe we need to review this. Do we need to redo the committee and go through this again like we did before? We spent an enormous amount of time before we adopted the one that you see before us right now.
I think the Google Doc will work good if y'all can get them on board with the Google Doc.
I mean, we could send it out more broadly if you want us to include parents in that too. I just, I'd rather keep it with, well,
Especially if we want this before. I would rather the
Bring it back
principals
in.
that have to enforce it, having the significant input in that timing, we address them.
But if the parents are involved, they're gonna make sure, they're not gonna waste their time and money of sending their kids in something that don't need to be worn to school. It's just not what I'm saying.
Well, I think too, the educating of the why, like, Diane said. That a parent saying, well, that's just against dress code. Well, why is it against dress code? I mean, Josh just gave a very moving reason why it's respectful to take the hats off. So do we need to be, in homerooms? Do we need to do some education on why the dress code is the way it is? It's just not a rule. We're not just trying to stifle your self-expression. We understand there'll be medical issues that'll come up. But this is why we're doing what we're doing. I feel like a lot of times when the students and the parents can understand the why behind it, I think we just need to push more information out as to why. We're not just trying to be.
But if parents are involved, it's gonna help the teachers and it's gonna help the principal, because it's not gonna be that big they're not gonna have to waste their time and take away from their day and their teaching.
That could also be done with a Google Doc, but I'm a person that has to have the whys too. And my children always had to have the whys. So if we have the whys, I've got grandchildren that have to know why, Nana. So I think the whys are important as well, as if we can justify why this is this, then I think it's gonna be more widely acceptable if we know why, like the hat. I appreciate that as well. So, maybe we need to tighten it up and then put more whys in there.
What's kind of a deadline?
By the end of July, well, we would bring it back to you for the August 4th board meeting.
Is there a good way to have like a deadline for principals and staff and whoever looks at it with this Google Doc with us to look at too?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then maybe social media put it out there, we need input. Here's what we're looking at, and find a way that they could
And that
make a
gives them
comment
enough
or something,
time
you
for
know.
parents that's wanting to buy clothes before school starts.
I mean, is that doable, or am I out of left
I
field?
would say by mid-July then, by probably the Friday, the 18th, because that gives us 2 weeks before that next board meeting. And it gives you some time to review it and see what that looks like.
And you may not have anybody click on it, but
Well, They're
like,
also gonna need time to get the printouts of everything that they need to pass out to the students and the teachers by the time the teachers come, so.
Well, and we have a
Mid-July.
I wouldn't either, because then I don't want to assume anything right now. The policy is no hats, no shorts that, you've got to cover up. I mean, that will remain the policy, and our schools will be expected to enforce that policy. If nothing changes, but this, came from the schools as far as the request to maybe lighten up, especially if the hats was the sticking point. And I do know that short sizes have gotten smaller in the stores. So that makes it hard, especially if you put on a little bit of weight. So, they look shorter.
Why was the hat policy not followed in the spring?
Well, I don't know that it wasn't necessarily followed. I just don't think that that was their priority. Keeping some kids in school. I don't know that they intentionally didn't follow them, but I can't speak to that as far as why.
But whatever policy we have, it needs to be enforced, correct?
We completely agree. Completely agree. Yeah, I mean, it needs to be enforced. And it will be enforced. If that's the policy, then that's what we'll do.
if everybody's good, we'll go to the next policy, if that's okay.
Yep.
4318.
Well, with the introduction of yonder pouches, then we were looking at our policies to share what other things that we needed to do to ensure that we were able to operate. Our current policy gives a little bit of flexibility, says that teachers can use cell phones for instructional purposes, which we don't want to do. We have other devices for that, and kids don't need another excuse to be able to access their phones during class. Most of those instructional purposes are done through, anyway, we have other devices. We're now 1-to-1, which we weren't when that original policy came out, so they can use their Chromebooks for that technology, to access technology. So this one removes that specific, or could remove that specifically from the policy. In fact, this policy is the recommended from the School Boards Association. The one thing that did pass in the General Assembly was a no cell phone policy. I've not seen the final draft, I haven't seen the final, but it doesn't say how it needs to be enforced. But generally, we've said no cell phones in schools, but, well, in class, that is, not in school. Right now, with the yonder pouches at the high school, students will, at the high school, early college, students will put their phones in the yonder pouch. It will be locked, so it stays with them all day, and then unlocked at the end, so they won't have access to it during lunch, in the hallways, when they go to the bathroom. They will be cell phone use free at that point in time. So we wanted to make sure that our policies reflected that. So this one says authorized use is generally permitted before and after school, which would be before they enter the building, because when they enter the building, they will be locked in the yonder pouch. Same way, and when they leave school, that's when the yonder pouches will be unlocked.
I have been reading about the policies that are going, it looked like it was going to pass both House and the Senate. But it had some components to it that this local school board were going to have to address. And one of them was cell phone use in the classroom by the for classroom activities. So there are, I think, 3 components to that new. They thought there were going to be 3 components to that. One being not during class time unless the teacher had a specific purpose for the use. And the other one was for people like me who keep checking my blood sugar that's going down rapidly. And so our policy needs to, I've got it right here.
Okay.
Our policy needs to reflect those things because they're going to make us do that. That is now a statute or going to be a statute. So we may be a little premature here. And I know you want the yonder, and I still have the, okay, Dewey or Dewey not yonder pouch. You know, I do have.
Yes, we do
problems
yonder
there.
pouch, and I don't think we're premature.
No, and
Really?
I think,
No.
But what
I
if the
have
state
not-
says that's not gonna work?
I have not used the Chromebooks, but what would a student need to use their phone for in class that they can't do on the Chromebook on a bigger screen?
I'm just saying that's what the legislature is,
Well,
as those guidelines that we have to follow.
And I think those are minimum guidelines. If you want to say no cell phones, you as a Board of Education have the opportunity to say no cell phones. And I think that you have with the yonder pouches for the middle and high school. But the Chromebooks, I can't think of a thing that teachers would do. Can you principals think of anything that the kids aren't using it for instruction? They just aren't. I mean, you bring your Chromebook every day to school with you or you don't. You don't get to access another device. In fact, we shouldn't be bringing other devices because then security on our network could be compromised with those other devices. So it's important that, which that's a growing concern, right, Ms. Walker? So, yeah, I just think we stay away from using phones for instructional purposes at all, because every teacher has a device, every student has a device, and that's K-12. I mean, we're a one-to-one school district, so we have that ability to do that. And I think the more you open that up, the more excuse there is for why somebody is accessing their phone and maybe texting a friend in between using it to take a picture of something.
And I'm just curious, does the teachers need their cell phones? Do they have every access on their Chromebooks and their computers that they would need during the day?
Well, you're asking my opinion?
I'm just asking, does the teachers need their phones in their meeting?
Are we using Remind them with our teacher's cell phone?
We are.
Okay, and that's a major
They can access it on their computer. Yeah.
They can access it on their computer.
I just, I really think we should treat our adults as professionals.
Yeah, as long as they don't.
That's my personal opinion. I think, for the most part, people do the right thing, and that's what we want to continue to uphold. I wouldn't give them any reason to not have them, and then we just need to address it when there are teachers that are sitting there on their phone
Right.
during the day, then that needs to be addressed. But for the most part, I don't think most of our teachers are not doing that.
So that's a girl
And that would
from
include
the,
substitutes as well.
Is there a way to get the draft legislation that they're working?
As soon as I get it, I will pass it along to you. I
That
do
would be
not
nice
have
to
it
look
right
at
now.
between the two.
I heard about it
Yeah.
on Friday, so.
With the state, the way they did us during COVID, I mean, they
yeah,
made us make decisions on top of, and if it was really that important to them, they should have made it statewide. So that's my opinion on that. So I think, if they have legislation and ours is more stringent than theirs, I don't see why they would argue with that. On there, when we were forced to make decisions we really shouldn't have made during COVID. on that. That should have been a state decision, not ours, on that. I think this would be good, but I'm interested to see how the states, it looks that hopefully ours will be more strict than the state.
If we're going to wait till, if we're going to want to look at the draft, and maybe this is another policy we need to approve the next time we meet.
Mhm.
It definitely needs, we need to
And
get
it's
some more
more-
information before we can do this one. And even this is the recommended one, right? It's not the one that we have already.
That is not the one we have already. That is the recommended policy.
We don't have 4318.
We do not, but we have in other policies, this would give us the guidelines, and then we do have another policy that has, that it can be used for instructional use, but again, I don't know
It's in
that there's
here.
a purpose for
Teachers and
instructional use.
teachers may, yeah, so if,
And
I agree, if we're gonna do the yonder pouches, we can't use them for instructional purposes. So we're gonna have to change the policy regardless of what the state does.
agree.
And, you know, the state has a way of putting these. Yeah,
And right now, there's House Bill 87, which is cell phone free education that is still, it's a crossover bill, still eligible. That was sent to the Rules Committee on the 26th. I do not have yet the updated one, and that's what we're waiting on. So as soon as I do get it, or I'll go searching for it, I'll get it to you all.
well, I read one thing and I didn't know if I could believe it or not, that it had been sent to the governor, but I don't know.
And I had heard that too. I've just have not actually physically seen it. And I see the one that's been sent to the rules, but I have not seen it as a file.
Right.
And it may very well be.
Any other questions on that? We'll move on to yonder. Move over yonder.
I appreciated the administration's timeline on how you're going to communicate this with parents.
And we have some things for everybody to go out following this meeting today. And of course, I'll send it to you all as soon as I'll send it to you all first before it goes out to everybody. But we worked on really getting communication pretty sharp. We borrowed from another district that has already implemented and made it our own. And we think you can't over communicate this one. We'll have to communicate and communicate and communicate and over communicate.
I think you might want to hear a comment. A parent called me up and said, I'm very anxious about my not being able to text my kid during the day. And I think this is a very real thing. It's not just parents. Our kids are anxious, our parents are anxious, and we need to build more trust. And she says, I don't trust you people. And I don't think it was us I think it's the trust factor in general that parents, the things that we've been through, the school shootings, the things that can happen that I didn't have to deal with when my kids were going to school is very real for a lot of parents. And they feel like there's this component with their kid having access to their students at all times. And I think we've got to be educating these parents. Yes, we will take care of your kids. Our teachers will be what's between your kid and harm. We have to keep repeating that we will take care of them, that they can trust us. And to be honest with you, a lot of our communications is digitally. It's harder to build relationships, as we well know, digitally, but how do we communicate with parents? We send a remind message, we do an email. We've got to take more time to have that personal connection with our parents. And I know that's hard, especially with all that we have to do now, but we are losing that relationship because of the digital access. I'm thankful I didn't have that back in the day because it made me have to reach out to our parents personally. And I think we need to emphasize that again. We've got to make a personal connection with parents so they do trust us, so that we are not sending them I mean, they're saying, hey, I don't want this for my kid. I want to be able to access my kid. To them, that is more important than whatever educational benefit they may get from it, for some parents. And these are very educated parents that I'm talking to. There is a anxiousness, just like there's an anxiousness with the kids being separated from their phones. There's an anxiousness that our parents have because they do not have access.
Is there a way that we can, the timeline is talking about internet communications to the parents, but not personal question answer times. I don't know, my impression is that the back to school blast tends to have more elementary students showing up, but like a booth at that for questions and answers about school policies, or just announce a meeting at the high school gym where parents who have concerns can come and talk to administration. I don't know if that would be helpful or hurtful, but that would help provide an opportunity for personal one-on-one communication.
Well, we, of course, tomorrow's July 1st, and so that's when I intended to, send out to faculty and staff information so that they're aware. I want them to get the information first. Of course, some of them may be listening, but there are a lot who won't check their emails until they come back in August. Principals on July 2nd, we're going to open that up with their families. Then on the 7th, we were going to send a parent letter out that includes the Surgeon General warning that I sent you all. It's in English and in Spanish, and also do all of those electronic communications, because generally parents are not around at that time. They're on different vacations and stuff, and we wanted to match, but there's no reason why someone can't come in and talk to a principal. I mean, Monday through Friday, their buildings are open. They can call us here too. But then on the 14th, we would do it again. And so it would be another school level communication. And usually they're pretty responsive to those. In fact, every year when we do the Title I night survey to parents, they prefer the electronic communications. But me personally, I say there's nothing that replaces a phone call home. So, to get to the masses, of course, it's going to have to be Blackboard, which, they'll be hearing from the principals on the Blackboard. But from an individual, if somebody has a concern, for us to know that they have a concern, I would just say, pick up the phone, call the school and say, I'm concerned about here, and maybe we can put their minds at ease. But really, you're right, kids and adults are addicted to these things. And it's not healthy. And we're seeing, I know we put up there the anxious generation. That's coming up on the second week of school. We intentionally did it early so that we can have yet another partner in this. A lot of families are, they wait until the first day of school to start thinking about some of these things. But August 9th, we will have a parent information session. So anybody who shows up, and that's pre-K through 12th grade, even homeschoolers, can come to our back to school blast for all the free supplies and information. And I hope that they are willing to listen. I hope that everyone shows up at the high school in August for our anxious generation, because that will be geared to families as well, and very powerful, and hopefully we have a big turnout for that. But that'll help to give some of the why behind it. I think the Surgeon General's letters will help provide the why behind it, but I think we all know the why behind it. And I think the lack of communication is just that very reason. I mean, it impacts adults and it impacts our students, and we want kids to have the phones away, out of sight, out of mind, so to speak, unless, of course, they have that medical issue. My son has a medical issue that he needs the phone, and me as a parent, I also have it. It was going off as him going low first thing this morning. And so, I get that anxiousness when, you can't necessarily be face-to-face to help. But I think there is time. We'll be posting on August 11th our updated handbook and procedures and stuff, that's when the teachers come back, because we want to be able to, our teachers have to help enforce some of these things that are happening. We're all partners in this work. And so we want to be able to have that out there by then, hence the timeline. And then we will be setting those expectations during, what happens during instructional time and during the day. And really, this is how we get back instructional time. So if they're distracted by a text coming in from mom, it's easy to pick it up and say, oh, let me check Facebook, or oh, let me check something else, when I've got a text coming in from somebody that may have a legitimate reason to get a message to a kid. But we all have phones. The teachers have phones in the rooms. Oftentimes they have reminders. We don't want them to be distracted by the phone either during the day, but they do have that level of communication, and we can always take a phone call in the office to get messages to kids by the end of the day. So.
I'm anxious to see the anxious generation. I read the book on there. And it's a nationally acclaimed book. I don't know that he's the author of the book that I
He's
looked at on there, but it changes your way of thinking about the devices, especially with youth and everything. So I think that would be a good event for a lot of people to go to. I plan to attend that myself.
And so there's something more you want us to do from that timeline. We're happy to communicate. We cannot communicate enough changes, especially changes to communication, and we all agree with that. So if there's something.
We've got the newspaper. We've got a new reporter with the newspaper. And this would be a good topic to touch on. Yeah, a new old, yeah. He's been with them before.
Absolutely. In fact, I can do that later today.
And if you're still doing any of the, of course, some folks listen to the radio. That needs to be, if you're doing any more podcasts or any of that kind of thing, that needs to be addressed there too. I think any way that we can address it with our folks, and we as employees can talk to parents that we see out, because that's where they get me, is I go to the grocery store, what's this about a pouch that my kid has to, okay, you need to call the school, you need to talk about, we've got some guidelines going on. The parents are terribly anxious right now about stuff. And Dr. Cox, did you mention middle school? Because a minute ago, is that just talking in general? We're just doing it for high school and the early college, right?
Correct. Right now, we've gotten it for the high school and the early college. I guess, testing it out, it really hasn't been an issue at the middle school. And Sherry, I think, would tell me if it had been, but if we need to implement it. But we do have kids in the elementary school. We had a student that Ms. Walker was testing during testing, and the child was very anxious, 5th or 6th grader, very anxious about access to his phone. When do I get my phone back? Where do I get my phone back? So we have younger kids who have open, free access to their devices all the time. Now, not necessarily during school, we're having them put them away, but there's a true addiction there when children can't think about anything else except for access to their phones during the day. And that means they're, to me, plug their phone in the parents' bedroom at night and don't give them access all evening so they can be on their phones. And if you look at the data, kids are staying up all hours of the night on their electronic devices. We can't do anything about that when they're at home. We don't want to do anything about it when they're at home, other than inform parents of what that can look like. But while they're at school, we want to get our instructional time back. And we want to make sure students are learning the skills so that they're able to function in life by having good conversations.
More to come on that. Anything else for Yonder? Leave Yonder and go to substitute teachers.
All right, so substitute teachers. The highlighted portion, and I have mixed feelings about this, I always have, but for substitute teachers, currently, we have to have an associate degree or 48 semester hours.
Remember when they did that?
That is no longer a state requirement.
No, we don't.
And so, anyway, I have mixed feelings about this one because we're here for education. And we want to make sure our people are highly educated that come before our kids, even as a substitute. However, we have some good people that don't have 48 hours and do not have their associate degree, who would be great to come in and substitute for a teacher, a couple of times a week, or how many ever days that we have people in. And of course, we know that we have a shortage of substitute teachers. Now, that's a double-edged sword because we want to make sure our teachers are in school and teaching, but also things happen. I don't necessarily think I would put them in as a long-term sub unless they had credentials, but to come in for a day or two or to substitute, I think, anyway, it's something that I'm willing reluctantly to consider. But we do have good people. I know one specifically that works for us in a different area who shared with me that she would love to be a substitute teacher. I think she'd be great in the classroom with kids, but she does not meet those current qualifications. And again, I think, obviously background checks and references and all of those things would be still taken into consideration. And just because you sign up to be a substitute doesn't mean you're going to be good at it or that somebody is going to pick you to be a substitute. Some of our teachers are very selective when they have to be out, and they want certain people to come in and care for the kids and or tend to their classrooms. But that's just something anyway, we are one of the few districts that still has this in our policy.
Is there any way we can continue to pay for effective teacher training for these folks that do not have it? I mean, we don't pay for it now. But I think that if we could require it and pay for it initially for those who do not have the 48 hours, could we do that? That's what, $48, $50 or something? How much is?
It was a cheap target, so.
You break?
All as soon as you started falling, it's raining pearls.
I didn't think that statement was that controversial, but.
I mean, they're just.
All right.
I would like to comment that I think that your way of wording it, that you're going to prioritize teachers with licenses and the effective teacher training, it is making those the priority, first choices, but it allows you to have options when none of those are available. And I think we do need to have a body in the classroom that's as competent as we can get. So.
And we're pretty selective on our people. I mean, there've been people that have, made it one day in a classroom and we've asked them to not come back.
Yeah.
And
you call a reference and if I say, would you want this person subbing or being rent, and they say no.
no, we just don't.
We don't.
And that's people with credentials.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I do think the effective teacher training would be helpful to those folks, especially if we make it, we might even pay them to do it or, pay for their, and get them, because that gives you some hints. If you've never been in a classroom before and you're wanting to sub, that would be a useful tool to have, I'm not talking about the associate's degree or the 48 hours, but that in itself, I think would be helpful when we can get them to do that. And I'm all for it.
We require them to do that.
That's required.
All substitutes, even the ones that don't have the 48 hours. If we could help them get that. We're not talking about a major amount of people. I wished we were. I wish we had 200 people that wanted to do that.
I don't even know what to say.
So that would stay in the new policy, the effective teacher training.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It's in there.
Okay, all right, I hadn't got
Yeah,
that
well, I
far
would
in.
really like for us to help pay for that because I know of one person who did not do substitute teaching because she honestly didn't have the money to do it, which is, I thought was sad, but she didn't. So if we could help pay for
How
that.
much is it?
So
Who-
we're
We'll
not.
find out. I wouldn't
Who
want
teaches
to.
that?
It's online, it's an online module right now.
Okay. Okay.
And we have them come in and do an orientation with Dr. Moken and, we can put any piece of information we want in that orientation. It's just more helpful if they do it on their own, beforehand. And I think if you really are serious about subbing, we've got more than make up for it after you sub one day.
And my opinion is that I don't think saying that the county will cover it, if we could determine we would, needs to be in the policy. We just would, but it's a
Part
good
of the
thing to
procedures.
research and do if we can.
For sure.
Any other questions there?
So we'll bring this one back to you, in the, in August. And if there's any more information, it's $50 for the training.
And we still pay the same rate, the state rate.
215. Still the same rate. That is a piece I'd like to talk with our budget work session. To increase it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We agree.
There's two things that I have.
Yeah.
Kind of running about Dr.
Yeah, that's fine.
Or before I wasted all this time.
And it'll be well, we haven't had any budget, any time to do any of that yet. Yeah.
So middle school roof, current middle school.
Current middle school roof. So I put this on here to keep it in the forefront. Obviously, we don't yet have plans back. We will have two decisions to make before we get anything final to send to DPI. One of them is the type of roof, and the other one is a commitment from the commissioners for how much we think that's going to be, because obviously what was proposed before will not cut it. It's not even going to come close. I wondered what kind of questions that you might still have out there. Is there any information that you would like to have? And of course, since it's our building, you guys are the ones who are gonna make, the decisions now. But I think you guys got a feel for the commissioners on last time too, even though no budgetary decisions were made.
Go ahead.
I don't think that we can proceed unless we have very concrete information of what it's gonna look like. And I think it depends on what we do is what the commissioners might do. I think it starts with us. Is that right?
It does.
We have to make a proposal. This is what we'd like to have. This is the help we need for this. And we can't do that if we don't have the options presented. I mean, we did have a presentation, but nothing concrete.
But we won't have, until it's put out for bid, you won't have a concrete number on what we're actually asking for.
I think we should go ahead and put it out for bid. It's got to happen.
Well, we've got to get the design from the architects first.
Correct. Well, and then they have to send it to DPI, but even before then, the type of roof that you want
The
to
two
put on it. And there were a couple of different options shared during that meeting. That's what we would need to know. And so I didn't know whether you had
So
additional
would that be
questions.
beneficial to know that now?
Well, the sooner that way we can get timeline put out and the type of rate we want to get in front of the architect, that will help, yeah.
So between what was it, PVC and but they're above my head.
I'll have to look back at that. I don't.
Yeah, literally above my head.
So that was on the special call meeting, if you want to pull up. Oops.
May 7th.
Nope, it was not. It was.
There's two plots.
Yeah.
That
They
was,
said-
I'm sorry, it was a regular meeting on the 5th.
Oh, that's right.
Before, hold on.
Two ply and a single ply.
Two plants in
Okay,
the
that
That's
was the
it,
main-
correct.
Yeah.
Second.
Because both of them are involved in ripping the roof
It was
off.
the
anyway.
June 2nd before the meeting.
And Boone used the PVC, I think.
So their option one was the proposed roof design of the two-ply modified roof system. I don't know what that word says. That was the one, the first option was the one that they then shared that they would probably do. The estimate is $1.85 to $2.45 million. The single ply roof system was 1.53 to 2.14, and they said that was also acceptable. But it really depends on how long you want that roof for, and
They both have the same warranty, basically.
And I think the commissioners gonna need to make that final decision because they're the ones that are gonna own the building.
Yeah. And they're going to use the building. They said they were. They have plans for the building.
Yeah.
so with your permission, I can take that back to the commissioners and see what they want to do, if they want to move forward at all with it, and bring you back what those options are.
That works.
Either option fixes the problem,
For us,
Yeah.
but I would, if
but it depends on how much they want to put into it. Because they're gonna have the long-term ownership of the building if they keep it.
And we had 500,000 that we had committed from the public school renovation funds.
Okay, so we'll just wait to hear back from them.
Okay, good.
On that.
and that will follow through with whichever plan they want us to use.
Then we'll have to talk numbers.
Then we'll have to talk numbers, and it'll have to be put out for bid to get a final. And of course, Terracon will be doing that for us as a part of our contract.
They'll have it the majority of the time. We're the
Yeah,
least.
really, well, right now, 3 years is what we believe we're gonna be in that building. Moving 3 years from now. Into the new building. Which
Still
is-
need to do it.
Any other questions, comments on that?
Make a motion,
All right, which one?
motion
Two.
to close.
Adjourn.
Okay, there you go.
Close and eat lunch.
What do you want it to be?
Adjourn.
I second
Yeah.
that motion that we adjourn.
All right. Anybody else ready to, all in favor, raise your hand. Y'all.
What do I need to?
I think they're set under the flow.
Guys,
Are they free?
Huh?
Yeah.
All right, bye. Yes.